Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're taking a look at Rustler on the Nintendo Switch. Otherwise known as Grand Theft Horse, can this medieval spin on old school GTA do the formula justice, or is this one where, the ideas may be a little bit better than the actual result? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So story-wise, you'll be taking on the role of Guy alongside your sidekick, Buddy. You'll start things here as a petty thief and thug for hire, but by the end game, you're out to gain entry to what is known as the Great Tournament and win the hand of the princess. The story, it's going to take you though from those early days and small jobs to trying to gain entry, to doing maybe a little bit of persuasion, so to speak. There's a ton of characters to meet though, from the local church to the Spanish Inquisition to more than a few thugs and drug dealers. It's for sure adult, but it definitely brings along a decent if immature sense of humour, which is exactly what I wanted. Alongside the main quest, then expect a decent chunk of smaller stories and side missions. They definitely help to bring character to the world and those around you. Enjoyed the story though, it's simple stuff, but it knows how to keep things moving at a relatively fast pace, and I was surprised to find a fair few pop culture references along the way. So gameplay, and this is old school GTA. The only real difference, well, GTA back in the day was purely that top-down viewpoint. Rustler, it kind of shifts from top-down moments to isometric as well. The concept here though is simple. You're presented with an open world and you can take on main story quests, side missions and activities. The pacing, it is decent, and while occasionally it may require you to, build a certain bank balance to progress, a few side missions here and there can normally keep things moving along. When it comes to controls though, the left stick controls movement, the right stick will determine the direction you are facing, especially in combat. It's essentially twin stick for brawler moments. Then you can also dive, which is a great defensive move, and you can also use block with the tap of the ZL trigger, and then you attack with the ZR. You can also sprint with the left trigger as well. It is worth knowing though, attacks, sprint, they are all attached to a stamina meter that is found in the top left of the screen. Alongside on-foot exploration, then you can expect, of course, horses. The only difference really here is, because you can attack, do all these same things on horseback, is they actually have two levels of sprint. One is a little bit faster but doesn't use stamina. The other, it will absolutely burn it away. Also, you will find horses with carriages as well, which will be required at moments in the game. I will say though, an absolute pain in the ass to control. On a horse then, one of the most important things to learn is you can U-turn by pressing Z and R at the same time. It is absolutely essential to learn this skill quickly. Missions, for the most part though, it's nothing you wouldn't expect. Fetch quests, go here, kill this person, take down this gang, steal this horse, or steal this carriage. It mixes it up just enough that it never feels repetitive, but I also wouldn't come here for something that's out to break the mold. Its aim was to feel like an old school GTA and nothing more. Alongside these main and side missions then, you can expect to find stores to buy things like food that will replenish your health, though I will say you can't carry it on your person. You can buy armor though to of course help you out in, battle. And then there's also some activities here, I think, like collect dead bodies, medieval martial arts and horse racing, to name just a few. The activities, they are fine, but I didn't really feel a need to, beat them. Rather, I tried one or two and then I kind of just, moved on. My completion file at the end game though, it was 73% completion, 85% of the quests were done, and then around 10% of side activities. This then allowed the end credits to, roll. Naturally though, there is clearly still game left in here, and you can choose from 3 difficulty options as well if you are thinking about replayability. There's also a couple of collectibles as well, that's horseshoes and musical notes. Throughout this world then, you can expect to find 16 weapons, from swords to literal shit that you can throw at people to crossbows as well. Outside of the crossbow though, it is very much a melee game. And yeah, I will say, while it contains the police chase moments that you would expect from the genre, that's symbolised by helmets in the top left of the screen, the lack of any real firepower means this isn't quite the all-out rampage world you maybe are going in expecting. My kind of kill count at the end game was nowhere near what I kind of envisioned. When you do have a wave of guards on you as well, you have 3 choices. You can of course get away from them as quickly as possible. You can rip down wanted posters, or you can take a quick visit to what is known as Pimp My Horse. The game's not without its problems though, unfortunately. It would be best described as rough around the edges. During my time with it, I did have a single hard crash. I also had a moment when a character had died and it basically sent me into an endless loop of quest failed, my only option, restart, which was a decent chunk of gameplay. Also on 2 occasions the game loaded up but the picture wasn't there, it was just a black screen. I could hear that Guy was moving and jumping to my input, I just unfortunately couldn't do anything. From there then you need to expect to get stuck in the environment as well. More than a few times myself, other characters that I needed, they were getting stuck. The U-turn on a horse, as I said earlier, that is a godsend. The ability to reverse also, but the carriage moments, they were always the most temperamental, and honestly I just avoided carriages at all cost. At one point I was on the run, I entered a pimp my horse. The problem, I couldn't get out the building because of the carriage, and every 10 seconds or so it was eating up 100 of my gold and respraying my horse. I didn't actually have one smooth pimp my horse experience when a carriage was involved. It just doesn't seem to like it at all. Then the game features a skill tree. As you progress, the game's going to award you points. These can be then assigned to your character. Love the idea, absolutely works in the formula. That said though, some of the abilities that are locked away feel like they should have just been features of the game from the beginning. You know, things like strength, stamina, speed of reload, even if the crossbow is slow as hell, I absolutely get that, it makes sense, but things like being able to pick up items while on a horse is just a pain, because it makes the opening of the game this slow loop of get on horse, get off horse, pick up item, get on horse, repeat. You should be able to just pick stuff up from the opening just to keep that pacing there. It's just, yeah, not necessary, and that should be absolutely your first unlock. Also at first you can only find and steal horses, and unlock here allows you to summon one tapping up on the D-pad. It is painful when you're running around this world with no one in sight in those early moments. Particularly annoying as well because randomly on mission completion your horse just kind of disappears, leaving you absolutely screwed. Switching weapons then is another issue. Now I really like the selection on offer, but you need to kind of almost memorize the order. It's a smaller complaint, but if you're surrounded by, let's say, guards, scrolling through with the taps of the left and right on the D-pad isn't quite as speedy as you want. A weapon wheel here, it would have just done absolute wonders for the game. Finally, frame rate, and the game's aiming for 60 FPS. It is variable, absolutely noticeable as well. For the majority of the game with, you know, let's say a town on screen, it's a decently sized world here as well, but not huge. You're looking at around maybe 45 on average, with it moving anywhere from high 30s to low 50s. Towards the end game though, it does take a little bit more of a hit, and one mission in particular I actually dropped as low as 14, as you can see on the screen. The black box you see on that left part, that upper corner, put that on screen just to avoid spoilers from the goal of the mission. So I know that was a decent list of complaints right there, but I want to say here, my 7-hour journey through this world, still enjoyed it, do not regret it. It's just rough around the edges, as I said. It's also clear there's a relatively small budget behind it. A few tweaks though could also really elevate it, and if anything, you're just going to need to be a little bit forgiving. So visually I really like the style. It's a decently sized open world and we have different locations representing almost different class levels. It adds for some nice exploration though, from outposts to wooded areas to towns and docks. It also doesn't forget the humour in the visuals. There's a lot of like visual sight gags in here. The character models as well, really like them. They're all kind of having this black outline leaning into almost a cartoon style vibe, but this is then reinforced in moments of dialogue on screen which are accompanied with a 2D model. Also it has this fantastic like live action introduction. It's ridiculous, but it's so much fun to open the game, and I think it very much sets the expectation of what's to come. Visually though, honestly, keeping it quick, the only issue I have, occasionally you can see where the textures are connecting, and the very occasional moment of screen tear as well. Otherwise though, it's set out to be medieval GTA, and it absolutely delivered in a visual sense. Audio finally, and the game has a decent amount of environmental design. First off, birds chirping, characters going about their lives, and this is reinforced with some nice weapon effects as well. I wasn't a fan of the dialogue sound they went for. They go for almost gibberish here. It just gets real old real quick. And also I will say voice acting, I would have loved to have seen it maybe in a sequel, because I found it difficult to read conversations while controlling, you know, Guy and Co on screen, and I almost occasionally missed steps in what I needed to do for the mission. Then the real audio winner, the music, the bards, you can take them with you like a walking radio. It is incredible. It's going for that medieval sound of course, but listen and you'll hear everything here from rap to pop to rock, and there's some proper classics in here as well. I thought the soundtrack was just a great time, honestly. It added a ton of character, a ton of charm, and yeah, you'll spend your entire time kind of trying to figure out where have I heard this song before. So the final verdict, and again, like Rustler, rough around the edges, but it also has a lot of heart, and as spins go on the GTA formula, I think they've done a decent job. Now, is it without its issues on the Switch? Absolutely not. From a crash to characters getting stuck to some poorly implemented systems. That said though, still had fun in this world for 7 hours, the cast, they were entertaining, and I always appreciate a game that's willing just to be, you know, unapologetically immature. Today, an above average, a 6 out of 10 from me. It's one of those games, fun to play, but it's also easy to see the missed potential. If not this time around with patches, then maybe in the sequel, because I will say I think they are onto a real good formula here, and I'd love to see where they evolve it to next. With that then, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.